So, hi, and welcome to our episode of SEOs Getting Coffee, where we sit down with SEO experts from all around. And sometimes it's just me and my director, Sean, just chatting about SEO. And today we have a very, very, very special guest. Joining us is Kavi Kardos. She has a wealth of experience in SEO. So I'm really looking forward to having a chat with her. And she's going to tell you a little bit about herself. And we're going to be talking about a topic that is close to my heart. I know I always say that, close to my heart, but this one is really close to my heart, which is around alignment across departments and particularly working with the customer service team. That to me is like, it's the best thing ever if you can get a good relationship with them. So, Kavi, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Emina. I'm really happy to be here. I'm Kavi Kardos. I am an SEO and digital strategist. And yeah, I have about 10 years of experience working in SEO and digital strategy in-house and on the agency side. So I've formed lots of relationships with lots of customer service teams and sales teams. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kavi. And you have some really good experiences. I know that everybody in the SEO community is very much aware of Moz, and I know that you worked with them. So it's a really interesting insight into how these different customers team work as well.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
so let's kick off with kind of like the obvious question when we're talking about developing relationships with customer service. Where's the benefit? How does it benefit the SEO, and how does it actually benefit the customer service team?
Yeah. So I think the first thing to say when we're talking about customer teams is they don't always look the same. Not every customer team is built the same way. So sometimes it means, people running basically a call center, answering phones and answering customer questions and that kind of thing. Sometimes it's a little more involved than that, consulting teams maybe at a SaaS company or something like that. So customer teams take lots of different forms, but usually their job is to answer questions from users and customers and help those folks use the product or the software, if it's a SaaS company, even better. So, especially, we can use SaaS companies as an example because I think that's the most common place where you run into really involved
Yeah.
customer teams. At a SaaS company that has SEOs on staff or working at an agency, it's really important for that relationship to be formed early and for those folks to talk to each other often because the SEOs need insights from the customer team that they can only get from that customer team. What kind of questions are customers asking? What kinds of things do they have trouble with? What things do they really love about the tool that they, rave about on customer calls? And they can use those insights to write better content and sometimes even make technical or site architecture questions that sort of help with maybe the issues that customers are having. And on the other side, customer teams often have to spend a lot of time answering the same question over and over and over again because it's not answered somewhere on the website. There's no
Yeah.
FAQ that addresses whatever that pain point is. So if the customer teams can tell the SEOs, it would be really nice if we could answer this question on the website because people ask us the same thing 10 times a day. Then the SEO can go and, fill in that content or make it easier to find the content that can help customers serve themselves instead of needing to bother the customer teams with that, which then frees up that customer team to answer more in-depth questions and help out with bigger problems.
Yeah, and exactly. And one of the things that you've said here, which kind of makes me think of like the role of SEO as well, is you mentioned answering customer questions on the website. Now, traditionally, SEOs always look at search and the queries that are in search. And there's this whole like, oh, which one has bigger volume? That one we're going to be answering.
Yeah.
How does this change kind of the role of SEO when actually it's no longer solely about the search queries? It's actually about your customers and your users and answering their questions. And kind of how does that work in your head? Where's the kind of does the role change slightly?
I think so. Yeah. Mostly if you're working on a team or say on a piece of software, a SaaS product, for example, that isn't easily Googleable because it's not a Salesforce or something like that. Not a product that literally everyone has heard of and everyone uses. If you're working on a lesser known product or something that's just not as likely to have a wealth of answers across Google, when you search for it. This is talking to that customer team is one method of uncovering kind of the more niche branded searches that people might be using. So if you Google, say, software XYZ, how do I cancel my account or something like that? That's not a question you want people asking, obviously, but
Definitely
it's a
not.
common one. And that's not easy to find via Google because there just isn't enough information about that brand, that lesser known brand. You can use the customer team to help answer that question. Some people, especially for like e-commerce products and that kind of thing, will use Amazon questions and answers or Amazon reviews to get this type of information. If you're lucky and your website has an internal search, then you can mine queries from your internal search. But I still think the best way to get that information is from the customer team. So yes, I think the role changes. It's being able to serve a more niche audience because it's your particular product's audience as opposed to just sort of the general web audience.
Yeah, exactly. And how does it relate to sales and to kind of the prospects? Because when I think of customer teams, and we work a lot, we work closely, especially in SaaS, with the customer team, but also the sales team, because it's interesting that sometimes you get different perspectives from the customers and from the sales team, even though that technically they should be working with the same audience.
Right.
It's kind of like
it's the same audience with different opinions.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, different pain points. Probably when you're in the software, you have a completely different set of pain points than when you're joining and thinking about like signing up for a demo or whatever it may be. So is that important as well? Should we be working with like across departments, or is it just customer services? What's the benefit there of like really aligning everything?
Yeah, so for sales, I mean, it's a very similar relationship, I think, in the way that it takes shape, but the questions you're able to answer are a little bit different. So if you're talking to a sales team, and that is an important relationship too, I think, really, I think SEOs should be working with everybody. I think SEO touches every piece of a business. But yeah, as far as the sales team goes, the people that they talk to every day are considering other options, considering your competitors, asking really tough questions sometimes about the product, like, will it do this? And if the answer is no, how does the sales team make up for the fact that it won't do the thing that they're searching for? And I think mining those questions. So does it do XYZ? Can I solve this problem with that product? And why should I pick you instead of one of your high powered competitors, maybe? That helps SEOs create many types of content, but the two most important types of content, I think, are competitor comparisons. So content that answers the query, X versus Y product or whatever. And then even more interesting to me, and you can do this with customer team conversations too, is creating jobs to be done content around those types of questions. So I think it was Lily Ray who talked about this recently at a conference that I attended. I hope it was her, if I'm not misattributing, but the idea of jobs to be done content and, and not just writing articles around like, I don't know, e-commerce software is good for this reason or whatever, but rather what actual types of problems are people trying to solve when they purchase that e-commerce software or whatever type of software it is. Like getting at those types of questions. So what keeps me up at night as a customer is this: how does your software help me solve that problem? The sales team and the customer service teams are really the only ones who are going to hear those types of questions. And otherwise SEOs just kind of have to guess what kinds of problems they might be having. So getting that info from those people and then creating that like maybe closer to the top middle of funnel types of questions can be really, really valuable too.
Yeah, particularly when you're thinking about kind of, you want SEO is a lot of the time it's about the informational terms, but what you actually want is also these commercial terms and transactional terms. And that's where the decision is being made. So you need to be good at pointing your prospect towards the right decision, which is your tool, or exactly. And features are not going to do that. It's kind of connecting it to the problem. Yeah. So that's great. And let's say if you're an in-house person, and I know you've been in-house, I've spent my career in-house, that seems quite straightforward to me. When I was in-house, I kind of had, and we'll talk about strategies, all of these strategies of how to ensure alignment. But it's easier than when you're in an agency. I know you have agency experience. How do you approach that as an agency?
Yeah, you're right. It is easier. And I think one of the struggles of agency life is trying to get in the room with the right people. Even if it's just, usually the agency partner, their main point of contact is going to be like the digital marketing manager or the VP of marketing or something like that. And you don't really get to talk to a lot of folks outside of that main point of contact, maybe a dev if you're lucky. So I think the right time to set up that type of contact is in the beginning. So if you're the account leader at an agency and this is the type of partner who's likely to have a solid customer team or a sales team that I can talk to, or I really want to be in contact with leadership, the CEO or whoever it is. First of all, the more relationships you can build with the client, the better, because they're more likely to remember you, care about you. You're less likely to end up as a line item that gets eliminated at the end of the year when they're rebudgeting. But beyond that, I think starting off really early with, when you're setting up the relationship in the beginning, telling that point of contact, hey, we'd really love to be in contact with your customer team, your sales team, your CEO, whoever it is, and setting up those meetings right off the bat so that relationship is established and they know, oh, okay, this is part of the deal. This is part of this engagement, is putting this partner in front of the right people. It's not always going to happen because people are busy. But if you ask and you explain the benefit, especially if you can tell the client, this is why we want to do this and this is the benefit we think that it will have, and then they say no, then they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, so it's in their best interest for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And we found that sometimes there can be a little bit of a pushback sometimes. Sometimes people are busy. Other times there's this gatekeeping that happens where no, our sales team, no, not with our customers team, no. And it's about, I think you're right, it's about explaining the benefit and also making it easy for people to get involved. What we do is, and that particularly happens like on, it should happen every day, but the worst is when you have a big project like a migration, for example, and you have a client where there's gatekeeping or there's issues with kind of opening up that communication.
Worst.
In those cases, because it can have such a massive impact. You absolutely have to do it. And we run like workshops and kind of get everybody together in a room, which works really, really well. What are some of the kind of, like, when you're talking about the application, whether you're in-house or whether you're an agency, what are some of the mechanism of that alignment that you've used, kind of how to actually do it?
To me, the number one way to get people excited and even just in the room to begin with and sort of on your side as an SEO is education. So the more you can teach the client about SEO and especially about modern SEO, because so many people are going to come into that engagement thinking, oh yeah, SEO means putting keywords on the page. I know what SEO is. I'm familiar with this. I've worked with a crappy agency in the past, Everyone thinks they know what it is. And so I think the more that we can say, like, yeah, you're not wrong, but there's a more modern approach to this that we'd like to educate you about. And you can, convey how SEO touches their part of the business and why they should be worried about it, how you can help them, how they can help you, then yeah, the more likely they are to back up your decisions and help you get tickets prioritized and get your work across the finish line. So one of my favorite things to do is right off the bat, again, set these things up early, because if you don't, it's going to feel like an afterthought. It's probably never going to happen. But early on saying, okay, well, part of this package that you've purchased as part of your SEO engagement is education sessions. And we're going to pull your editorial team, maybe. I've done these with newsroom clients before.
Yeah.
So if some of the news publisher, an education session just for the newsroom.
I'm trying to set one of those up at the moment, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Those are really fun because I've really enjoyed those because newsroom folks especially tend to have kind of a chip on their shoulder about SEO, and for good reason. I understand why.
But, of course.
They tend to be sort of frustrated by the idea of having to SEO their articles. So if we can say, no, you don't have to worry about stuffing keywords into your titles. That's not what we're talking about here. Here's what we really want you to do. That's a tangent I could also go off on forever.
Yeah, I could as well.
Yeah, sounds like you have some experience.
I do.
But yeah, that having the same kinds of meetings with everybody is a good idea. Anyone you can get, and if it's a customer team or a sales team, and again, because those relationships are so similar, I think you can kind of do them together. And explain, here's the modern approach to SEO, here's our philosophy, here's why we want to have this meeting with you. And especially the more you can convey, like, look, this is going to make your job easier in addition to ours. I think that's the best way to get people on your side.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the amount of time, particularly with agencies, and I remember when I was in-house and I worked in SaaS, one of the things how I evaluated an agency is whether they were like talking about getting a demo of the tool. Mm-hmm. Because the amount of time where agencies wouldn't even ask for like a demo of a tool. And I'm like, you can't do anything unless you understand my product. You won't know how to do anything. So when we're working with clients, the first thing that I say, even before they become clients, are kind of, just so you know, I'm super nosy and I'm going to be looking into everything. And I want a demo of the tool. I got some of my service clients even to record their calls, their inquiries and stuff. And we're listening to that. So there's things that you can do, maybe even if you have those gatekeepers, you get them to actually do this work before. Which is really interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. You were asking about mechanisms, and I only gave you one, but it's
okay. That's why we're here. That's why we're having a coffee. We haven't even talked about
I know. Here it is. I do have it. It's iced, except the ice is melted.
My one's now cold. It was an iced coffee. It is iced coffee now. But that's why it's a chat. Yeah.
The idea of asking for a tool demo is one way, because they do that all day, every day. So, that's just another demo for them. And then, listening to sales calls is something I've done before. The sales team especially tends to be kind of hard to get in a room because they're on commission. They're, hustling constantly to just get more and more prospects on the phone. You are not a prospect as an agency partner. So that call with them can't make them any money. So that's, I think there's a good reason for that gatekeeping. It's still frustrating, but so as an alternative, saying, okay, great. Can you just pick out then a couple of sales calls that you've had recently where maybe somebody asked a tough question, or you felt like you had a really great conversation and got to really get in depth on some of the features, or something like that. Tell them what parameters you're looking for, and then let them pick out the pre-recorded content. For you to sort of peruse on your own. That's a good way of getting around that moat as well.
Yeah, it is a moat, isn't it? Sometimes I'm finding it more and more now that I'm agency. Before I could just go in there like a bull. But
people tend to have kind of a natural mistrust of agencies. And I think unfortunately, that is for good reason. There's so many bad agencies out there doing things the wrong way. So, it leaves a bad taste in some people's mouths and makes the rest of us look bad. So it's, it's up to
Yeah.
us, people who work in agency. It's up to us to sort of flip that perception around.
Yeah, change that. But it's the same with like SEO and the things that you were saying about modern SEO.
Yeah.
The role of SEOs has changed so much. I don't want to say in the last few years because it's not. It's been like this for a while. It's just
Yeah.
that maybe now we're waking up to it a little
Yeah.
bit
Yeah.
more. But yeah, it's the same with agencies. I think there's room for improvement, and it's
Yes,
our
for
role
sure.
to kind of do that. All right. Now, you wouldn't have an episode without kind of mentioning AI and stuff,
Yeah, of
obviously.
course.
Is there, I mean, I would be amiss to kind of not, is there anything on this side of alignment where you've kind of had a play with AI, did some interesting automations, workflows, anything kind of that you've discovered that is useful when it comes to working with other departments?
Yeah, so I'll try not to go off on too much of an AI tangent here because that's
Yeah.
yet another topic that I can talk about for a whole hour by itself, and I'm sure you feel the same way. But
Yeah.
I yeah, so something I have not done yet, but that I keep wanting to do. I know that a lot of companies, especially in the SaaS space, well, maybe not especially in SaaS, maybe this is more widespread than I think, but we keep hearing about companies sort of ditching their human customer service teams and replacing them with chatbots. And now chatbots are getting better because they're AI powered. And I know, don't at me. I know that I know that AI has always powered chatbots, but they're getting a little better now.
Yeah.
At least we hope. And people building custom GPTs and that kind of thing for customer service purposes. All of that is really interesting. I'm skeptical of it because I still think that a human is usually the best way
Oh God,
to
yeah.
get your questions answered. I imagine a lot of frustration comes from using a chatbot. I know I've experienced that frustration as a customer, so I guess we'll have to see. But if you have a client, or if you're an in-house SEO even that uses a chatbot for customer service, that's like a ready-made repository of information that you can mine, assuming all of that gets logged, which I'm sure it does one way or another. That's something you can dig into and not only provide feedback on the chatbot, as someone who works in the company or works with the company, you can say, like, look, the chatbot does a really bad job at answering these types of questions. This is something to look into. But you can see people in real time, getting frustrated with answers that come from this automated service. And
Yeah.
if all right, well, this chatbot is just going to do a bad job at answering certain types of questions, then that's the type of question you can answer with content instead. So in some ways, like I said, I haven't gotten to do this yet, but in some ways, I would imagine that's even easier than trying to, set up a meeting and have that actual conversation with customer service team. Um, I don't think you'd get quite as much insight out of it, but yeah, I'm curious to look at logs of customer chats and see,
Yeah.
what kinds of things are people really struggling with when they try to get this answered via automated service.
Yeah, and it's there's you can automate some of the logic as well,
Yeah,
so
right.
that if you have like we had in one of my last companies kind of hot words,
Mm-hmm.
so words that kind of trigger automations in the back end, just based on repetition of words or
Yeah,
kind of and fire off like an email to either the customer service or sales, or that you can do
yeah,
some really good reporting as well based off of chats, which yeah, we use HubSpot a lot, so
yeah, right.
and you can do a lot with it, so I'm with you
Yeah,
on
for
that one.
sure. Yeah.
Right. I am mindful of time, and this has been a really, really interesting discussion. And I could sit with you, Kavi, here for the next 5 hours and talk. But I don't think I was looking at kind of who watches the episodes and stuff. And I really need to cut these also in smaller pieces.
I know you have to remind yourself that not everyone is as obsessed with just talking about
Yes,
SEO for
exactly.
hours at a time.
This is it. This is it. Because I do, I sit there and listen to podcasts of an hour, no problem.
Yep.
But yeah, I probably other people have lives more than I do.
Maybe they do.
Just
I don't know.
completely
What's that
obsessed
like?
with it. No, not to say that we condone, we are very much about
No, work-life balance is
work-life
very important.
balance. Yeah, of course. But I find that problematic because I really, I'm so interested in it that,
Yeah.
it's very difficult not to kind of in my free time. I love, like, it's a hobby as well
Yeah,
as a
yeah, it's
job.
okay to recreate around the stuff that you find fascinating, even if it's your work. That just means you picked the right career.
Yeah, exactly. This is it. Um, Moving on to our room 404. So as everybody knows, I mean, those people who are listening probably know, we every time we do a segment on the room 404, which is basically banishing something that has made you angry or annoyed you or just, didn't fit well with you in the last week, 2 weeks, or ever. Um, let's banish it, never to be found, into room 404. We know GA4 is a constant there. I don't think
Popular
it's ever
answer. Yeah.
exited. Yeah. But what about you, Kavi? What would you room 404?
Okay, this is going to be completely unrelated to our topic today, but
Yeah, it
I'll
can
throw it
be
out there anyway.
completely.
Okay, so I am going to 404 conferences that don't employ enough women. I've been, or I should
Wow.
say, I suppose, lack of diversity in conference lineups. That's what I'm throwing into the 404 room. Um, I know 𝗧cie𝗽𝗶𝗰𝘀, who runs Women in Tech SEO,
Oh
my
yeah.
hero. I'm sure
Oh,
one of yours
mine
as
as
well.
well. She is. Oh my God. That
She talks
woman
about
is
this all the
great.
time, and I think
Yeah,
it's really
she's
important to be
amazing.
loud and angry about this whenever
Yeah.
we get the chance. So I'm using your podcast as a forum.
Oh God, yeah.
um, I'm talking about this topic. So customer teams aligning with SEO at MinSearch in Minneapolis in June, and then again in Dallas at State of Search in October. And I'm really lucky to have found opportunities where women are asked to speak and where they care about diversity in lineups and parity, if not better. Brighton SEO does even better than parity in lineups when it
Yeah.
comes to gender most of the time, which is awesome. Um, so there are lots of conferences out there doing it right, and it's odd, that the ones that are doing it right seem to be the most popular ones. So I feel like others should take a cue from this.
Oh,
But
definitely.
and MozCon, of
Definitely.
course, does a great job with that too. But I I see so frequently, on LinkedIn especially, and even worse on Twitter. We can't get into Twitter. It's a whole other conversation. But these SEO conferences that are allotted as like, oh, the top experts in the industry, and you're going to learn so much, and come have beers with the bros after the conference
Yeah.
sessions and
All
all this stuff.
middle-aged,
Yes,
middle-aged
exactly.
white men, all
And
of
they are
them.
all
Yeah.
middle-aged white men. It's the most frustrating thing. And you go to these talks and they're all saying the same thing, and all of their talks are half like, well, I've been in this industry for 10 years and or 20 years or whatever, and so I really know what I'm talking about. And then they're advocating like uh creating garbage landing pages at scale to game the system,
Yeah,
and
programmatic.
it's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
nightmare.
We had a chat about that last time. I'm
Yeah.
with you. I think that should go into a 404, a
Yes.
410. I mean, seriously, it just puts my back up so much. And a reach and the community, the women in tech community, I can't say, like, I can't praise them enough
I know. Yeah. Every chance I get.
yeah, exactly, for making a difference, because they really are making a difference. You can kind of tell
Yes,
that they are,
absolutely.
so it is amazing. All right, Kavi, so nice to have you
Yeah. Thank you
join
so
us
much for having me.
today. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode and our chat with Kavi. Don't forget to tune in to the next one, where we're going to have another wonderful guest. Unlike some conferences, I am very much keen on having female guests. You might have noticed already. So join me for the next one. And thank you, Kavi,
Thank you so
very
much.
much for joining us today. Bye. Right, shall I stop it?